Hey everybody, it's Rollie, and I'm having some technical difficulties. It didn't upload onto one of the on one of the platforms, so I wanted to go back and get that added. So, welcome back to Chatting with Wisdom, and for those of you who are catching this on the replay through the podcast, obviously you didn't see any of that other challenges; you just had silence. So, welcome back to Chatting with Wisdom. I am so excited to be back. And as most of you, for those of you who can see, things are still a little bit disastrous. It's better than it has been. So we're getting better. And so we're just kind of moving with the flow. I'm going away for a women's retreat this weekend with zero internet connection. So looking forward to that. I leave tomorrow, and for 4 days, we'll have no internet connection. I will not have to worry about my space, any boxes, anything, just nature. So, really excited about that. So, I want to welcome Denise Wester to Chatting with Wisdom today. So, Denise lives in the Pacific Northwest with her husband Kevin. They enjoy 7 grandchildren from their 5 kids. Being in the Northwest, she enjoys riding her bike, kayaking, and camping with the family. In addition, Denise has a passion for great wine and blogs about it. Raised in a restrictive religion, not knowing who she was or when, Denise found yourself a single mom on welfare, not knowing um, where they would sleep the next night. Apparently, I can't read today. She got courageous and busted through to make a better life for herself and her family. Denise has been through bankruptcy, divorce, multiple job layoffs, and recovered from many wrong turns, as well as a severe car accident that took several years of rehabilitation. Life has been a great instructor, and she has experienced life changing. Maybe I should get Alexis to come over and read, because maybe the grade one level might be easier for her. She has experienced life changing results to create vibrant, joyful, and authentic life. She is laid out. She is laid out the methods and tools that saw her through these times in her book Busting Through. As a certified life coach, Denise is passionate about helping you overcome the stories holding you back, discovering your passion, clearing up the clutter in your life that is bogging you down, and digging deep to find the courage to take action in your life's vision. You will find her book Busting Through Methods to get courageous, take action, and get unstuck and find your personal power on Amazon. So, welcome. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Yes, thank you so much. I can't wait for our conversation.
So this is amazing. And so we were just talking about just having a free flowing conversation. And one of the reasons is because apparently I can't read. So Alexis is our nearly 7-year-old, almost like a granddaughter who, like I said, could probably read much better as a grade one than I was able to read today. So, but that's all good. So tell me a little bit more about yourself. So we shared a
Yeah.
little bit in your bio.
Well, as you mentioned, I was raised in a restrictive religion. And that, if that doesn't relate to you, you got to think of it as with anybody who has maybe a narcissistic boss or been in a relationship where you were felt powerless and out of control. And so that's why I had felt always judged, never doing anything right, always doing it wrong, and never doing enough. And then somewhere I got the strength to leave that. And when I got married, the marriage, we both left the religion and had 4 children. And, then it was a bad marriage. And then just getting the courage to leave that and not being stuck in something that was just constantly an issue. And so, that's where it was really hard, because when you're in a restrictive religion and growing up, you have no tools to deal with life, the reality of life. You've been controlled, you've been told what you're going to do, you've been told what your future is. And so, therefore, I took so many wrong turns in life because I was just building my own ideas and thoughts and beliefs and confidence, and just being able to grow as an adult, and with a lot of the tools that I just developed and put in my book. And my book is a journaling workbook because I found journaling through all that really gave me clarity to discover myself. And there might be some of your listeners out there that are trying to figure out who you are. We're all, in different phases of your life. You have different hurdles and different things you're running into. And now like for right now, for my life, I am retired, newly retired from my day job. And journaling has been a beautiful tool for me to gain perspective on this next chapter of my life.
And I love that tool. I love that journaling tool. And I know a lot of people, not a lot of people, because actually quite a few people that I work with journal and are able to use that as a tool. But I sometimes will have people say, oh, I can't journal. It just makes it really difficult for me to be able to do. And it really is about that self-reflective process. So if you can't do the paper and pen, being able to take that time to just reflect on what it is that you need to be doing. And so that makes a huge difference as well, doesn't it?
Yes. And a lot of times that's why one of the tools in my book is meditation. Just taking that time to be quiet with yourself. And a lot of people say, I can't meditate. My brain's going 100 miles an hour. Yeah, mine does too. I have a total monkey brain. And that, like you say, reflection, meditation, it can be, just taking a quiet walk can be very meditative. Shutting everything off, closing your eyes, and just taking that moment to listen to those thoughts. And and I talk about in one of my chapters is, okay, you're getting lots of thoughts, well, listen to them, and like, where are they going? Is it just all your thoughts on the past, or all your thoughts going to your to-do list, or or for the future, or are they right now? It's like, oh, am I doing this right? What am I doing? How do I look? So pay attention to where those thoughts seem to be gravitating, to the old stories, the future that you have no control of, or are you worried about right now, all the things in your life that are going on right now? And that's a great learning tool right there, because then you can say, well, I can't change the past. And there's something in the past that keeps coming up. And you can meditate on that by then it's like doing a deep dive and unpacking where your thoughts are tending to go. And so you can just learn a lot just by doing something simply like that. And I find that very, very powerful.
And it really is. It's that whole part of being able to being heard, right? So a lot of times we have been, and especially when you talk about the relationships that you were talking about previously, is that we've had all the religions or all the different things that we've had where everybody else has dictated what it is that we should or we shouldn't do and how or we should or we shouldn't do things. And so just being able to be heard, right? So even if we are just hearing what it is that we are thinking, what we are feeling, what it is that we have going on in our own lives, makes a huge difference in terms of being able to validate ourselves. Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes our thoughts do get crazy and it's like, yeah, those are not necessarily true thoughts, but just being able to acknowledge them. Right. So that's one of the other things when I talk to clients about being able to like they're like, I can't stop the thoughts. Then don't stop the thoughts, acknowledge them. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'll address it later but like, don't get into a debate about the thoughts at that point. Just acknowledge it. Like, thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got that one. Yep. Oh, there's another pattern. There's something else that I'm seeing. Oh yeah. That thought's come back again. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I call it, it's like I talk about it also in my book about being present. And sometimes, that means being present when you're with somebody, listening to them instead of being in your head. But it also has to be present with what you are needing. Listening to what you're needing right now. And like one time I was at work and it was a super stressful day. And I came home. My ritual to came home was to get on my bike and go for a bike ride. But I had a headache for some reason. I got a headache all of a suddenly, and I never get headaches anymore. And so, I took that to being present. It's like, Denise, you need to stop. So I just poured myself a glass of wine, sit on the back deck, and allowed myself just to sit there and watch the birds and the nature, and just stop and be present with myself for a little bit. And my headache went away. instead of, okay, but my routine is, this is why I need to be doing this, and this. I was present with myself and saying something, I need to stop for a second and just relax and take a moment. And that's okay. It's okay. It's like, I'm all about the routine, but sometimes you got to just like, okay, you need to take a moment to be present with yourself and what's going on. And that's also like listening to your thoughts, as you're saying, and being truthful, and right now, with my life, I've always had tons of things on my schedule. I've always had busy jobs that were very much multitasking, go, 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 go all day long. And now I'm finding in retirement that it's a whole different mind shift to going all day and having that busy calendar, that full calendar, to, okay, I don't have that anymore. And that is okay. It's okay to have some free space in your day. It's okay to breathe and relax. And that is taking a huge shift for me, and I'm loving it. But it's really, some people might identify with that all of a sudden when you have a change in life, that you don't need to have a full calendar. You can just enjoy life and enjoy the present moment, and free space is okay.
And that's one of the things, and this topic has come up a lot for me over the last couple of weeks, is that just being able to just be in that present moment. And I do use mindfulness, and I am present, and I have time for meditation, and I have time for all those things, because I do practice what it is that I preach. But one of the things is that the universe will still stop us dead in our tracks, whether we want to or not. And so a few weeks ago or a few months ago, when I broke my leg, that was one of the things that had happened. Is it was right before I had to move. And so like there was like lots of life lessons, and I'm like, okay, so I have to ask for help, and I have to slow down, and I have to kind of take things in a more strategic plan as to how I'm going to do things, and that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, I can do this. And everything was good. And so, but things, I still hadn't slowed down enough. I still hadn't done all the things that I needed to be doing. And then I ended up getting sick on top of that. So I had lots of complication with the breaking of the leg. And so it's like, okay, I don't know, what more lessons am I supposed to be doing right now? And it really was about just being able to just complete stop and just take that time. And so last week I spent literally 2 days in bed. I didn't get out of bed, other than to, like, my husband brought me something to eat and all that kind of thing. So like I just stayed right where I needed to be without having to go anywhere, do anything, and just be in that space. And all the rest of the things that had to happen, all the rest of the things that needed to be done, they're still there. And I still was able to tackle some more, and I was still able to do, but it didn't change anything. I still needed to look after myself. I still needed to slow things down even more than what it was that I was doing. And when we don't listen to ourselves, the universe says, yeah, our bodies say enough, and you're not going to keep going. You have no choice. And so, and it's just really important for us to be able to just, if we can consciously take that time, consciously take that space. And it might be that, oh, okay, well, I've got this book that I want to be able to read. And okay, so you take the book and you just happen to sit there and you're just doing nothing with it, right? It doesn't matter. It's just being able to just have that time. But we live in a society that dictates how much we need to do all these things. We need to have all these things happen, and then we set expectations for ourselves. And it's not that we shouldn't set expectations, because those are important for us to be able to have limits and goals and boundaries and things that we need. But at the same time, we do have to, like you said, just sit and just listen, watch the birds, like do nothing else but sit and watch the birds. And I love that analogy that you used, and I love that scenario that you shared, because it makes a huge difference when we can just stop and just be in that present space.
Yeah, a lot of times too, when you do that, like you broke your leg, some people are, something happens. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I have such bad luck. Oh, woe is me. This is terrible. And it's a big, huge drama. No, it's these kind of things happen because it is a time. It's like I said, I think it's the universe telling you to stop and reflect and maybe it's a time to pivot too. It's like, what's going on here, and it's a time to pivot. Like I talked about in my bio, I've had 4 job layoffs, and I realized that during COVID, when I was laid off from my job for being in the food service industry, sales for over 20 years, and the industry tanked, and there was no jobs, and I was realizing that, wow, I've had 4 layoffs before, and it's always something better, something different, more money. And it's always led me to meet more people, more better experiences. And so I just looked at that layoff, all the layoffs, as just a great experience to pivot into something new, in which I totally did. And so that's why sometimes things happen in life. That's just life. It's not perfect world. We're not perfect people, and we're not going around in, a bubble. We're being protected. So things do happen. And it's all about how you look at it. Okay, this is the time for me to stop. This is the time for me to reflect. This is time for me to listen. And maybe the universe is going to tell me some new path to take, and just take maybe a little time with yourself during that discovery.
And it is a discovery, right? So it is that we need to be doing, and it is part of that whole process, right? So like the more that we actually have to take, and the more opportunities that we actually take, right? So then it makes a huge difference for us to figure out what it is that's going on. Are you telling me you're leaving?
Yeah, but I'm just gonna talk.
Okay. She's leaving with my sister. And that's who I was actually talking about that should read for us. So, but it just does give us that opportunity to just stop and take that reflective situation. And it is that mindset of like, okay, so what's happening? What is it that's going on? And one of the things that you said is like, oh, woe is me. But when we actually stop and thinking about why is this going on, and like you said, time to pivot. And COVID really did that for a lot of people a couple of years ago. When COVID happened, it was like everybody came to a standstill, and everybody was trying to figure out what they were doing, or how they were doing it, or where they were going, or how all these things were actually going to impact. Because there's not anybody that I'm aware of that COVID has not impacted in one way, shape, or form in terms of like our whole routine, the things that we do. But one of the things that I've noticed in the last 6 months is that people are going back into that crazy busyness, right? So like we went into that like complete, like everybody shut down, like the whole world stopped. And then people had to shift and change in how things were going. But things were at a slower pace, and life wasn't going as crazy and wasn't going as quickly. And now that's one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of people, like not just myself, but with everybody, is like, we've gone back into some of those old patterns. And we were with the revelation that I was hearing from people is like, oh, things have shifted, and we need to take things slower, and we need to take more perspective into life. And then everybody just switches back into that whole pattern.
Yeah. Well, I talk about a lot too, in that get into the craziness. It's a lot of toxic things going on social media, and conversations and content. And I think it's really, really important to start looking at what you're bringing into your life. And, I only allow 30 minutes for myself to do social media. And so I hit the places, the sites that I feel feed my soul, that have positive information, useful information, instead of getting stuck scrolling for hours and just feeling like you're just allowing toxic content into your life. So I really want people to start analyzing the emotions that they're feeling when they are on social media. Maybe take a fast. I did take a fast for a little while from it, and just to rethink, what it is I really wanted to get out of it. And because I think it does have some benefits like this. And I think there's some great useful tools out there, and connecting with your friends and family, and a good positive content. So I think in the business of life, I find that so many people say, I can't do my workout routine. I can't meditate. But then they can sit there and tell me that they just, watch this funny, thing on social media about, some bunch of toxic people and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, did that feed your soul? Did that make your day better? And so I think just analyzing that as we're getting, like you said, the craziness back in our life. I know so many people that we have this conversation. It's like, yes, we need to backpedal on what you're bringing and adding to your life. And it's so important that you're doing what's feeding your soul, what's making you better, and really asking yourself those questions.
And it really is about trying to figure out, what is it about your soul, right? I like that whole analogy about the feeding your own soul, because it really does make a huge difference as to how much of it makes a difference for you, and what is it that's going on, and what feeds my soul may look different than what feeds my husband's soul, and it'll look different than what feeds my son's soul or my mother-in-law, right? So like, there's so many things that we just need to take a step back and figure out how to process that and see, where is it, and what used to feed our soul isn't necessarily what's feeding our soul now. Right? Like, that's something else to look at as well, isn't it?
Yes. It's so, yeah, we do have like different phases and chapters in our life, and something or someone or whatever, what was you were going through as a child, and is maybe something happened then, comes back as an adult, but you have different eyes on it, and you're like, well, I dealt with this as an adult, or I had this interest in, just whatever. It's like, you've got to give yourself grace for different chapters in your life, for needing something different, and for having thoughts that are different. But maybe something comes up from the past, and you're like, where'd that come from? I dealt with that. But now you are in a different place, and you have new eyes to way to look at things. Yep. And so it's always like very, very important to give yourself grace, and to stop beating yourself up, people. Everybody's just they're so hard on themselves, and they're thinking that, I just ran into so many people that think that that there's something wrong with them, and I know a lot of people that have anxiety right now, and they're just beating themselves up so badly about situations, and it's hard and it's so hard. And the anxiety situation right now, I think, has gotten to be such an epidemic, because people are just so hard on themselves, and they're dealing with so much, and it's okay to stop and listen to that, because that's telling you something, and you need to really, really address where that's coming from.
And that's one of the things that we are so hard on ourselves, like you said. But yet, if our friend was in the exact same situation, in the exact same moment, in the exact same whatever it is that's going on in terms of circumstances, what would you be telling your friend? How would you be telling your friend on how to handle a situation and how to deal with it? And so that makes a huge difference as well, when we kind of take a step back, and again, goes back to that reflection. Take a step back and say, okay, so what would I be saying to Denise right now? So Denise is going through this. How would I handle that situation with Denise? How would I be supportive of her and provide that same support that you would to them as you would to yourself, right?
Exactly. It's so funny you say that, because I have that as one of my journaling prompts in my book. It's like, what do you kind of advice, or what kind of compliments do you hand out to your friends that you right now, I want you to write about and hand out to yourself? Yeah. Because it's like, so many times we're so giving to others, but you need to be giving to yourself. And that's what builds confidence, is acknowledging your wins, acknowledging what you do well, and saying, yeah, I did this. Yeah, I overcame this old story. This is who I was, and this is where I've come. And give yourself a pat on the back. I think so many people, it's like, oh, they don't give themselves the credit they deserve. And when you do that, I'm not talking about being boastful. That's totally different. And that has to do with the ego. I'm talking about really having heartfelt love for yourself, that you're proud of yourself and you celebrate your wins. And that's what's going to give you confidence to kind of keep in the courage to keep taking action going forward on your dreams.
And those wins are not these great, big, huge, gigantic experiences, right? So we're like, oh, well, I didn't get to buy my dream house that I wanted to be able to buy. And it's like, that's not necessarily the win. Like, so what is the win? Oh, well, I have a place to live. I have a roof over my head. I have family or friends or all the different things that are actually going on, and just all these little things that add to the bigger things. And eventually that dream house may or may not show up, depends on where life kind of takes us, but it still allows us to be able to say, okay, so this is where I'm at. This is what's going on. And so, the women's retreat that I'm hosting, is that it's looking so much different. We've taken the ladies that are coming. They have taken ownership on helping with what food that they're going to bring, and everybody's going to make meals, because those are typically the things that I look after. Well, prior to this week, I haven't even been able to walk on my leg or stay standing on my leg. And so I've been on crutches. So this week that has shifted, and I'm going to be able to do more things, but they've taken full lead and full control as to what they're going to be doing, how they're going to be doing it. We always do the meal, cooking and stuff together. Anyway, that's still part of the retreat, but everybody's bringing their own. We've adjusted the price so that people are bringing their own food and that kind of thing. And it's just the way that we actually look at it. What approach are we taking? What way is it that we're going to be looking at things differently?
That's great. And that's just a great example of pivoting things. Something happened, you had to change. And maybe this might be the way you want to always do retreats. This works out well because you got community going on. And, and this is something you guys put your heads together, build some teamwork, and there's a win, and that's just a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference. So one of the things that I forgot to ask you before we came on is telling me a little bit more about how you work with people. So so one of the things that you've talked about is that you're a life coach. So tell me a little bit more about how do they work with you? What can they experience when they are trying to work with you, and so on?
Yes. Well, I became a life coach because I wanted to be able to support my readers. That was really, really important. I just didn't write a book and here you go. I wanted to be able to, those who've read my book and the principles and the strategies I have in it, we can kind of keep going with that as my platform. And so it's very helpful to be able to have that as a guidebook and a base for what we want to do for setting goals, getting over the old stories, and really taking action on where you want to be in life.
And being able to take action is the key, right? So
yes,
I think that that's really, really important. And I love the fact that you actually built that in with the writing of your book. It's like you said, you had the journal prompts in there, and that's great. So do you have any kind of special offers that you are offering anybody right now? Or is there anything in particular that you wanted to share?
Well, I do have a freebie. It's called Busting Through Procrastination. It's a kind of a nice little one sheet that I'll email out to you if you want it. You just email me at bustingthroughjournal@gmail.com. That's bustingthroughjournal@gmail.com. And just, say, hey, I would like the freebie, and I'll send you the Busting Through Procrastination. And then you can also email me there too after you buy my book on Amazon and you join I put you in a private Facebook group that's just for my readers. And so I wanted to build a community, like I said, and I wanted to continue to support my readers. So I'm always putting on more journaling prompts, and we share with a like-minded community, and I'm continuing to support my readers and with, quotes, or like I said, journaling prompts, just, reflection, things to like that. And so, yeah, you can just reach out and do that. And I'm there for you for support. And then if you also want to do some coaching.
Perfect. And you said it was busting through journal
Uh-huh.
at gmail.com.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I have put that in the chat for YouTube and into Facebook. So if you are listening to this through somewhere else, but otherwise the link is right there so that you'll actually be able to just copy and paste it and kind of go with it on YouTube and Facebook. So if that, because I know that for me, that always helps to be able to have some quick, easy way of being able to do that. So, but yeah, so like this is great. And so is there anything else that you wanted to share before we headed out?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to let everybody to make sure that, I wrote this book because I really wanted those who are struggling to discover themselves, get past their old stories, and gain the confidence to find themselves and find where they want to go. And it's really, really important I want everybody to start listening to that voice inside that you have, let environment or others tell you that you don't have and can't do. And you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you can bust through, and you are courageous. And I just want everybody to know that they can have the life that they want. It is there, and it's so important that you listen to that little voice inside you.
Beautiful. I love that. And so, so for all of you who are listening, and for all of you that are joining through the variety of different platforms, is really listening to that message that Denise just finished sharing, because I love it. And so like it just kind of warmed my heart as you were actually sharing it, because I think it's something that we don't say enough to ourselves. And so thank you so much for sharing that, and sharing your wisdom, and being part of the conversation.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate this conversation, and you and your listeners.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. So we will catch you next week with Chatting with Wisdom, and through all of your means of connection. And LinkedIn is our newest addition to Chatting with Wisdom. So I'm really excited about that. And so for those of you who are listening through LinkedIn, welcome. And I hope you enjoy it as much as the rest of us have over the last few years. Thanks, everybody.